I want to make certain each and every one of you know that today here on the campus of Paul Quinn, we're having our 6th annual African American Leadership Institute Summit, so to speak. And we're talking about different issues that impact our community. Issues concerning criminal justice, health and human services, education, and also economic development. So hopefully you'll get a chance to come out here. We'll be here from 8 a.m. until 2 p.m. It's already started. So there are sessions this morning and also later on this morning. So come on out. The fact is that we're here to make certain that the community has input in all of those particular issues and are able to talk to elected officials about what their position is. We're also developing our Policy Institute right here at Paul Quinn. We've already raised over $50,000 and we need to raise another $50,000 in order to make certain we have a person that's the executive director that will continue to build this particular institute. I want to thank my colleagues, Carl Sherman, the council persons, Tanel Atkins, Casey Thomas, and State Representative Tony Rose, along with the President, Mike Sorrell, for being the advisory committee, if you will, to kind of shepherd this to where it needs to be. You need to come out, participate. You can't continue to be a person and complain if you're not setting up to help us find the solutions. We need the solutions, and we need to make certain we blaze a path for young leaders to come. That's what the Institute will do. I look forward to seeing you here at Paul Quinn. I'm Royce West, your state senator. Thank you.
Well, listen, when you're talking about making laws and talking about policy, I think it has to have the police. We have to be involved in those conversations because a lot of the policies that are being made by legislation has a profound effect on our communities. And I think that when they hear from the police and our perspective, gives them a better understanding of what policies are going to probably work well for the communities. So truly the objective here is to be able to first network because we have the African American legislation here, networking and understanding and being able to meet those folks. But more importantly, it's about making sure that our story is told from the police side. If you look around the country, all of these defund the police, and we want to make sure that doesn't happen here in Texas. And I think that we have to have these kinds of discussions so that we are making policies that make sense.
So I'm Dr. Trillian Small, and it was so important for me to be here. I am a mental health clinician, and I truly understand the importance that our mental health, how it impacts us as African Americans, and not only just our experiences with careers, not only our experience with education, but also just the development. I firmly believe that the way that we formulate our community really impacts us as an African American society, and it was so important for me to be here because I want to be a part of the conversation. I want to be a part of the decisions that are being made and also give my input as far as from a mental health standpoint. How does the development of green space impact one's ability to connect with others? And so it was so vital for me to be here just to hear what's happening, what's going on, and to really hear what are the basic needs and then how I can find myself inserting myself into that conversation to really impact what's going on in our community.
Awesome. It was very important for me to be here today to see and understand the relationship between the University of North Texas, Dallas, and their relationship with the community. Bontown Rose Terrace projects, the schools there in the area, H.S. Thompson, Pearl C. Anderson, Lincoln, Madison, those schools, so that we can ensure that those will be the students that obtain the degrees tomorrow at the University of North Texas in Dallas.
Well, it's important for me to be here as president of the Dallas Black Chamber because I need to really be focused on how policy is going to impact small businesses and nonprofits throughout our community. And if we're not talking about policy and what that impact will be, then we're missing a major opportunity. So that's why I'm here today.
Well, this is important for me to be here because this is an opportunity for positive engagement. It's an opportunity for us in law enforcement and policing to connect with the community, to tell our story, but also hear from the community and hear their perspectives as well. And to be quite honest, part of it's self-serving for me. I'm here to recruit. We're looking to diversify our department. We're looking specifically for African-American representation at the Fort Police Department. We want to connect with HBCUs, and the closest HBCU to us is Paul Quinn College. This was a huge opportunity, and I hope we can come back again and expand on this even more.
Yeah, I think first of all, I'd like to thank my precious Lord and Savior Jesus for the opportunity to be here. I mean, this this is the type of impact and unity I think our community so desperately needs. I think there is a severe gap in how we unite on a lot of issues from cradle to the grave. I mean, there are a lot of things that we can do a lot better, and I think if we get those resources and people together in one room like we did today, we can really start making a true difference in the world. Right, so right now I'm an NBA free agent and a young mentee of Senator Royce West. I'm just grateful to be in his presence and his tutelage on how things work on the other side of the coin, and I'm a United States Air Force Academy grad, so I've seen a lot, been in a lot of places, and I'm just thankful to have an opportunity to be around other great minds and pour back into a community that helped mold and raise me as a young man. So I'm just excited, thankful, and blessed just to be in the room.
So Iota Phi Lambda is here today volunteering with the African American Leadership Institute. We found that it's imperative to be a part of this because of the Leadership Institute, what it stands for, and what it's about. We believe in the diversity and economic and inclusion in the community. We also believe in education and healthcare. It's so important to give back into the community, not just for today, but for those who are following in our footsteps as well. So we appreciate Senator Royce West and all of the other constituents who are here today to put this on here at Paul Quinn. Thank you so much.
That we've been talking about for a long time is a school-to-prison pipeline. And our legislators have put a lot of money behind it. We've had a lot of discussions about it. So my first question is going to go to Dr. Lacey. We've been having all these discussions and there has been money appropriated, but does it actually still exist?
I think to me the answer is yes. When we see that our young people are still disproportionately moving from school through expulsion, suspension, which helps move them towards justice involvement, then we are creating those pipelines.
First step is contacting the person that is going to know what the state's doing in a really robust and very kind of granular way. That's number one.
It's how we get the whole picture of what's happening in our schools. It's really about being involved. I think Dr. Lacey made a great point. One of the best things that we can do to ensure that all of our students are prepared for whatever future they choose is to ensure that they're reading on grade level by the end of third grade. That's the first step.
Firstly, we can start with the debt. College is way too expensive. It is. And especially for families of color that may be first generation or, the historical income and wealth inequality in America. So lowering college debt is very crucial, will make a huge impact. Start supporting those that are doing the fight.
Right.
But then more importantly, we come from a wonderful lineage. Okay, so we know what to do. We need to do what Ella Baker did. We need to do what John Lewis did. We need to do what Coretta Scott King did and get to work. Even when we're tired, even when we're...
I have so enjoyed being here on this panel today. It's very valuable for the community to see that we care, that we're active. We, meaning the government, we, meaning Gen Z, we, meaning the Black community, is here, is present, and it's not lost on us what's happening. For Gen Z in particular, being a Gen Z member myself, a Black woman, a lawyer, and a teacher, I want to emphasize that you don't find your path, you make it. It's so important for you to remember that as you go about your journey, you want to be happening to life, not life happening to you. So if something's not working, maybe that's because it's a cookie cutter system and you're not cookie dough. So don't be limited by others' limited imaginations. Take your route, take your power, and I'm so glad I could be here on this panel today to show you that you have support as you accomplish your goals and try to achieve your dreams and do whatever you're doing, living your best life.
So good morning. I have been a panelist at the African American Leadership Summit for several years, speaking about education, and I think it's important to, one, be engaged, to have a dialogue with community members, to hear their voice, and to help them understand how to partner effectively. I think we have the same goal, student success, but we might have different visions about how to get there, and so it's through building relationships, being involved, shaking hands and meeting members of the community to hear their voice so that I can make informed decisions as a leader.
when you dial 988, of course, the intent is that your state crisis call centers have the capacity to answer when you dial. But should they be overstretched or they have vacancy issues, well, there's a fallback system, which is the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline. So there's another call center that will still answer.
It's a National League of City, and I'm on one of the committees. But then again, this is the very thing that we were talking about in Atlanta, and I just think it's so good that you guys are sharing, you know, to the people that are here today, because we got to get it in the brown and black communities.
And if we don't tap into these resources, we will lose them. 2024 is that's it. That's the end of it. So hold your local officials, your mayor, your council, your legislator, hold them accountable so we can go get these resources because they're free to us. We just have to tap in them and make good use of them. And it's an array of things that we can use these resources for. And when you said $50 billion, I'm like, oh my God, why haven't we gotten any of this money?
And someone mentioned the ARPA dollars. Those are what we call COVID relief funding that we received. And then there were some specific buckets of money related to the 988 that have been very, very helpful.
And that's that right now, the most urgent thing is how we'll continue to fund 988 and increase funding, not just start funding, but sustain and increase funding for it.
The scope of it all is education. If you don't know, you don't know. If you do know, you spread the word.
You mentioned access being one of those 4 items, and you were asking about funding, kind of related to that. A lot of what we talk about here, 988 particularly, but also when we get more into crisis services, those services are free.
We've worked very close and we have been supported, and a lot of the funds for grassroots organizing and voter mobilization has come from Black Voters Matter. So since that's the label who pays me, that's why I got on the Black Voters Matter t-shirt. How important is getting organized and staying organized?
It's extremely important. First of all, community organizing promotes power, and it's the power that promotes the change. And what I stated earlier was simply that you can't have organizing as volunteers. We got to have ongoing organizing. We cannot just simply have a movement that's operated on volunteerism. We got to have volunteers plus well-trained staff organizers.
And I would like to say that I'm probably the poster child of what you get when you organize. So there are a lot of people that said, how in the heck did this girl end up being outspent 5-1, and somehow she came back and won a race by 90 votes. Well, the deal was I had continually been helping candidates behind the scenes. So when candidates say, hey, I want to run for office, I ask them, have you ever worked on somebody else's campaign? First of all, you need to understand what you're getting into. But beyond that, you need to understand the power of organizing and building your own coalition. Knowing what you know and knowing what you don't know is really how we all should approach any issue. A lot of times you have people come into your communities during election time, but they don't really understand the community. You'll have a lot of outsiders who will literally come from DC or Iowa or Massachusetts and come here and try to tell us what we need instead of really first connecting with the community. I believe so heavily in surveys, right? Like, because a lot of people come into our communities and make assumptions about what we need, but we know what we need, even if we don't understand how to access what we need. So first, it's important for us to decide what is important to us, what are our demands, what are our values, right?
And we want to create an opportunity for the people who's here first. This is from people who just came out of prison. We want to create an opportunity for them. Plus, we want to create an opportunity for a person who just graduated from the UNT. And if we cannot do that, then this is not going to be a project that we're going to be proud of. So we are going to be focused on that.
So let's also put UNT Dallas in context with Southern Dallas. The huge expanse of Southern Dallas is larger, the square mileage is larger than North Dallas, and yet it only produces about 15% of the tax base. It is extremely important that whatever is developed around us is the highest quality. This area needs a grocery store, a name brand grocery store. It needs top retail. It needs quality housing, and it needs good schools. Gillum is a national blue ribbon school, one of only 300 in America. And I feel like we need a lab school, pre-K to 8, because why do people move into an area? They move in for schools, retail, grocery store, a university like ours. That's what we're about.
Dr. Mong said Southern Sector has the most developable land in the city. That's true, 55% compared to 45% in the north. It has 45% of the population in the Southern Sector compared to 55% in the north. But 15 years ago, the Southern Sector was only 11% of the tax base. 91%, 89%, I can't do math, 89% in the north. Today, I'm kind of proud to tell you that the tax base in the Southern Sector is not 11% anymore, it's 20%. He quoted 15, that's a little bit of an old number. 20% of the tax base, that's a significant amount of growth in development in the Southern Sector in the last 15 years. And we're only just getting started.
How do you see, how do you make your city safe? And what are you doing to make sure that people who you represented feel like you're doing a great job?
One of the biggest things we have to do in law enforcement right now is understand that our job is not just about reducing incidents of crime, but reducing the fear of crime as well. What we're doing in Fort Worth to pursue that, while making sure not only do we not damage our relationships with the community, but actually improve them, is the three things we focus on are safety, wellness, and resiliency. A city and a community that's safe, that's healthy, and resilient, that's a powerful community. That's a community we have more positive interactions with. We're helping them set themselves up for success.
When I got to Arlington a little over 2 years ago, I changed the philosophy of the agency. I looked at how we were going into our communities. We had a crime trend in our area, we would flood our community. We would go and put officers on dots and all of those things. And that actually kind of disrupts the community. When they don't know why we're there, why we're stopping, over and over and over again, that has a negative consequence. Obviously, we want to work on violent crime in our fatal shootings, in non-fatal shootings. But we also noticed that there was a lot of fatalities in Arlington. Last year, we had 55 people die on our roads. And then the third thing for Operation Connect was really connecting with our community. So when we started Operation Connect, when you have a program, people don't know what you're doing, all they see is police. But we want to do something different. We wanted to get the buy-in of our community. We wanted our community to feel that they're part of our police department. We wanted our community to be the eyes and ears. We always say, hey, I want you to be the eyes and ears. But if they don't know what they're being the eyes and ears to or for, they're not buying into the program.
We need to know that we were born with original sin, that this badge that we wear so proudly today didn't always shine so brightly. We need to teach our officers as to why that is, that there is a reason why there is distrust issues in law enforcement, and we need to recognize that. We need to grow from it, and we need to know that we need to work on that trust with our communities. But having said that, I'm not a stay in the office chief. I'm sure none of my colleagues here are either. And I have not met a neighborhood in the city of Dallas or anywhere that I've been to, and this is now my second large city, my second state, regardless of language spoken, racial makeup, or economic background, that has ever asked me for less of my men and women in their neighborhoods. And unfortunately, our communities that are impacted by violent crime and our communities of color plead for me for more. Yes, they want us to be right. Yes, we want to be procedurally just, but we need to recognize that our communities have never wanted us to go away. We just did a community walk a few days ago in Fraser Courts in South Dallas, where I knocked on doors and asked our community and our communities in areas of concern and need that were positive interactions with our police department, that they wanted us there, that they needed us there. And for our men and women to hear that is very important, because unfortunately we have not heard that. And we need to hear that. Our men and women need to hear that we need to be just, we need to be righteous, but that our communities don't want us to go away. No crime plan will work if the morale of both the community and the men and women that honorably serve and that sacrifice feel their worth. And that's what we need to work on as we move forward.
Chicago Police Department is the second largest department in the country, funded for 13,000 police officers. Our budget is $1.7 billion with a B. So each of these departments express some of the same sentiments that I have regarding community and police relationships, but that's really not the issue. The issue is this. There's 18,000 police departments in this country. 18,000. And over 900,000 police officers in this country. And there's not a single standard for policies and or training for those departments from a standardization standpoint. So we all do things a little bit different. They look similar in the big cities though. So cities like Arlington, Fort Worth, Dallas, Chicago, all going to have similar policies. But a city like Ferguson, Missouri won't. Some of the other smaller cities likely don't have best practice standards as far as policies, training. And that's where you get these issues of misconduct that go viral, that paint us all with the same broad brush. Fast forward, all of our departments have done really great work with building relationships in the community. Best practice standards. Chicago Police Department is under consent decree to ensure our standards are best practices. And we're reviewed by a federal judge because of some of the things in Chicago Police Department's history. So we work really hard to build relationships in the community. We're all here today because of that. We believe this interaction is important for you to hear from us how committed we are. But one officer can undo years of work, years of work. And today, it's one officer anywhere in this country can undo years of work in Chicago, Dallas, Arlington, Fort Worth, that because of the advent of social media, every department is representative of all of us when they do that one thing in the community that we all reject as horrible.
We have to make sure that we're engaging our community in every possible way. The way I look at it is each and every time that we come in contact with someone is an opportunity for us to build a relationship.
One advice on how we can secure our schools. The community has all kinds of ideas, but you all have worked closely with your ISDs, and you've seen a lot. You've seen the things we've done right and the things we've done wrong. But moving forward, what is the greatest advice you can give us so we can have our community at ease and calm while our kids are in school?
Absolutely. I would suggest the most is training. We have to make sure that the administration and teachers and are training with the local officers, their police departments, because you can't wait for a situation to happen and then say, okay, well, how do we get through it? You can't build an airplane while you're flying. So you have to train. You have to train up front. And what I would suggest is during the summer, talk about the active shooters. How do you lock down your school? How do you make sure that you're doing the little things? The other thing is making sure that you're prepared. Making sure that your doors are working, the door locks work. But it's also the whole school's responsibility. It just can't be the administration. So it's about training, communicating, and talking about these incidents.
If you got a lock on the door, use it. If you got a system to check people who are coming in the front door, make sure you're using that system. Do everything that you possibly can to make sure you're as safe as you can be while we're on the way to help.
There's a common theme with our babies being killed while they're at school. Assault weapons. And the high capacity magazine, where, multiple lives are lost because of the frequency that the bullet comes out of the automatic or semi-automatic assault weapon bullet. It's just devastating. When that was banned, we had less school shootings with multiple victims. When that ban was lifted, we have continued to have more and more and more school shootings. So everyone, get yourself some advocacy with your state representatives here in Washington, D.C. to advocate banning the assault weapon and fully automatic and high capacity magazines. Thank you.
It's incredibly important for us to be out here with our community, with other chiefs, really. I mean, it's a great part where you're sitting next to the Chicago superintendent, the chief of Fort Worth, the chief of Arlington, and we're all talking about similar issues and how it's impacting our communities, how we can help our communities, talking about policy, working with legislators, working with city leaders. It's important for our community to see us all working together, because when we're separate, there's the trust fades. And so being together, working together, is an important message to our community that we're in this together, and we're going to keep fighting for them.
This is what I'd ask you to do. I'd ask you to make certain that today, before you leave here, that you do, I guess, some social media to say the following. Number one, we've had this summit today. We had 4 major chiefs of police here, which talk about major criminal justice policy, and no media coverage is here in order to make certain that they covered it so everyone else could know. With all probability, there's somebody's covering a dog shit. Y'all get that? Okay. They're covering a football game. And I find it offensive, once again, David, the same things that you dealt with when you were here, we're dealing with today in 2022, when we had our senior law enforcement officers, law enforcement leaders here, talking about criminal justice policy. So hopefully you will do that, put it on your Facebook and all your social media to make certain that they know how to stand about this, but it will not go unchecked, I assure you. We'll make certain that, Diane, that as we've done before, that we get in contact with the powers to be and show our discussion what they are doing to recover events in our community.
Well, there's no place like home. I have deep ties to the Dallas community, but being here on Paul Quinn College's campus to talk about policing policy was really important to me. I think it's important for the country to hear from the Fort Worth Police Chief, the Dallas Police Chief, from myself, and from the Arlington Police Chief, all talking about policies and trainings to help bridge the gap between the community and police officers.
Okay, great. And just tell us a little bit about your history here in Dallas.
So Paul Quinn College is in the Oak Cliff community. I was born and raised in Oak Cliff, went to high school not far from here. I grew up in this neighborhood, had fun, enjoyed, but also I have a deep commitment to it because of that. I have an obligation to serve not only here, but anywhere I'm needed. So it's really exciting to be here, and I really thank Councilman Atkins, Senator Royce West for inviting me.
Real quick, what inspired you to be a police officer?
So the biggest thing that drew me to this profession is the ability to help people. So I'm really deeply thankful for the opportunity to serve. It really is something I really hold dear, that I can serve people, particularly people that look like me. It's really important to me that I can treat them with respect. I can be that example, that role model, and maybe even encourage others to come in this profession.
Last question, and what would you like to see come out of all this event that happened today?
We really talked about a couple of things that I hope that can come out of this. Number one, all of us talked about banning assault weapons and high-capacity magazines. We all talked about also the importance of having proper training and policies for our police officers, and then holding them accountable for when they don't do the job right, while encouraging the officers that do to do the job right.
Dear closing notes, closing remarks. It was a great venue today. I think the closing remark was great. We had 4 police chiefs here, one from Fort Worth, one from Dallas, one from Chicago, one from Arlington. You know, to have 4 chiefs on the stage and close everything out is great. We're talking about public safety. And one thing that we took away, that all the police chiefs agreed on one thing: safety is #1 priority in every city. And they also agreed to abandon the assault weapon. You know, abandon the assault weapon is one thing they agreed on. There were one disappointed. I think the police chief, Senator Ross West, they made a statement. Well, with the press, you know, there should have been a coverage here at Paul Quinn College. That is a black university, 4-year college in the city of Dallas, in a neighborhood of color. But I still thank all the people who's here and all the black press were here who did cover this event.
Thank you. All right. Thank you so much. Thank you. You too. Go Cowboys. Yes, exactly.